Your sound's gone off, Freeze.
No, it hasn't. I just said I forgot my glasses.
I'll keep that on the YouTube on that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's not a problem. Hey up. This is ShrimpNet, the podcast of the Shrimps Trust of Morecambe FC. Welcome to episode 9 of the 22-23 season. To laugh and chat about the latest goings on in and around the Mazuma. Joining Laurel and Hardy, as usual, we have, for today's hijinks, we have the doyen of the full kit boardroom boot room in James Wakefield. Welcome along, James.
Thank you very much indeed, David. I'll actually appreciate the slightly early recording of time of this because I'm playing football tonight and I will be in full kit, and that's why I needed the earlier time.
Well, that's good. We're happy to accommodate. Thank you very much. And from the dressing room, the left-sided centre-back who has established himself as the king of the intercepting tackle this season, it's Ryan Delaney. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start, as we normally do, with a review of the last game, which, as we know, was Cambridge last Saturday. Personally, I thought it was, I thought they just shaded it first half, and we may have just had the better chances second half, but a 2-1 reverse, not what we were really after, but it all started so well with, I've got a text off one of our listeners, Paul Carter, asking for 6 numbers, because I'd forgotten last week's podcast. I actually finished it off by saying, and we'll look forward to talking about Cambridge, where Jensen Weir opens the scoring. How did I know that? I have no idea. It's the only thing I've got right in my life. Joel, talk me through Cambridge.
Yeah, I thought, it was great to start with the goal. I think we've bemoaned not being clinical at times this season with chances, especially early in the game. So there's been the one against Shrewsbury from Connolly. Stockton's obviously had that one against Peterborough it was. And then you got moments like against Fleetwood when we were a goal ahead and we had chances to make it more, but we didn't. And then obviously Jensen Weir goes through and puts it away really nicely. To be honest, I thought he'd taken his touch in the wrong direction a little bit and shut the angle off. But I don't know if he kind of, looking at the goal cam angle, it almost seems like he saw a little gap at the near post that the keeper was leaving. And it's kind of stuck it the way there, which is really nice finish. I think what's a bit frustrating from that is probably we didn't create as much as we maybe would have liked from that point. I think ultimately, like, we've bemoaned these moments in the past when we've missed a chance and not had the chance to really take the initiative in the game because we've not scored and obviously not got the momentum that follows. And this time we have, and maybe just we didn't really make the most of it as much as we could have really. But fair play to Cambridge. I think it's easy to overlook them as a side, and while they are probably one of the more sides who are more on their level, I thought they were really quite good. I think they have what, unfortunately, through just circumstance, we probably haven't been able to have over the past couple of years, which is that kind of continuity of management. And, while there's obviously been turnover of players, that's going to happen, they've still kept core people, and there's kind of, people pass on the values and the style and the structure, and people know the deal a bit more. So you can kind of see where they're at with that. And while they're not good, they're not a Sheffield Wednesday or anything, they're still, a decent side. And I thought they put some nice moves together in the final third. They were worth that goal in the first half. I thought it was a nice move. Second half, I think it probably evened out a little bit more in the second half. And I think the frustrating thing was, I think in those last 10 minutes before they scored, I think if the momentum was built, I think we'd ridden out a bit of pressure from them initially, but the momentum was building. It was probably building a little bit in our favour, I thought, with Gibson's obviously gone through into their penalty area, not quite falling for him right to shoot. We were just building a little bit of pressure. And then, I think just a bit of a disappointing goal to concede in the end. I think there's probably a few errors along the way there, and they've got the winner, which is frustrating. But the curse against Cambridge continues. That's 5 defeats in the bounce against them, which is maddening.
It is, and I think from that point of view, James, I think it's a good point that Joel makes, that they've had some consistency, because they've had there were a lot of names on that team sheet that I was very familiar with that had been at Cambridge since we got promoted, but particularly Ironside, Nibs, etc., etc. And I thought Smith up front was a real handful, although he spent most of the time on the ground after Ryan had tackled him. But but from that point of view, that it's a fair point to make. Mark Bonner has had that consistency since they got promoted, and it's something that perhaps we've suffered of a little bit with a bit too much, obviously chopping and changing with Robbo coming and going.
I think that's fair, and actually there's lots of similarities between Cambridge and Morecambe. I think it's probably fair to say that they're probably 2-3 years ahead of us on a similar journey with similar objectives. They want to build things sustainably. They want to be able to afford whatever they spend under their own steam, which is very much like us. They until very recently didn't have a ground. They just brought the ground back in, and that's obviously taken a lot of effort and planning by the people. And the people behind the scenes at Cambridge are they're great people. They want the right things for football and for their club. The reality on the football side of things is that Mark Bonner's had now a few years of building up a team, and every penny that they've spent is it's his spending. It's players that he wants in the squad, and that does make a huge difference. And that's not to point the blame at any changes that we've had, but it makes a huge difference when you give a manager time and the ability to build their squad and get them all playing the way that they want them to play. I think that's probably the major difference, but it wasn't a huge difference. As ever, it's fine margins in football, and it was almost sod's law that we just started to get our tails up. We started to find some space on the right hand side, created a couple of chances. Gibbo turns into Pele and strolls through the area, and you just think, oh, wait. And I actually stupidly turned to the person next to me and said, you know what, we're going to get a goal here. This is coming. And literally 30 seconds later, they're up the other end, and it's just one of those things. But from a club perspective, and I think a football perspective, they've just had that little bit more stability for that little bit longer, and that probably shows through.
And from a team's perspective, Ryan, that's going to be it was a difficult game. We knew that they're all difficult games, but it was a game that we were in for large parts of it, but. It's pretty much reverse of the Forest Green. They score on sort of like 86, 87 minutes, and it's difficult to come back from that, isn't it? It's like the killer goal.
Yeah, I think it was a real sucker punch for us, really. I think probably in the 15-minute spell before that, I think we really kind of got to terms kind of with them, and we were putting a lot more pressure on them. And obviously felt like we were staying up in the final third a lot more, getting a lot more kind of crosses and final third play, but that goal that we obviously got caught in the counter attack, it was a sucker punch for us, really, with how the second half kind of went towards the first.
Yeah, and there wasn't really that much time to come back, and obviously Cambridge being the side that they are, they were very, very absolutely brilliant at getting it to the corner flag at every single opportunity. And as a home fan, that's the most riling thing. But when you're winning away from home, the away fans applauding every single thing. You can't blame them. It's good. It's good habit, isn't it, from that point of view?
Yeah, I think it is. I think obviously you've got to do the dirty work in football, and it's the dark art, really. There's going to be moments in the game where you can obviously play nice football and stuff like that, but when it comes down to winning 3 points, you have to do the other side of the game as well.
And I'll come back to something that James said. You said that Gibbo turned into Pele. I was going to say Maradona, because he skipped past 2 or 3 there. Does he do that in training, Ryan?
Yeah, Jensen's technically he's right up there. He's good off both feet, and he's got a drop of the shoulder where he can kind of really sell somebody and take off, really. And I think that goal showed that, really, what we see kind of more on a day-to-day basis. And he's scored quite a few goals for us now this season, and I think it's only a start for him. Top scorer.
He's got. Has he got 4? Has he got 4? Everybody.
Joel, 4 in all competitions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I was fortunate enough that I was sat in the stand, and I was right when he. I knew, and he knew he was going to beat that fullback to it, and he just waited, timed, and then megged him. And then when he went on, you could see him give the keeper the eyes, and he went, looked far post, and then smashed it near post. It was a brilliant goal. And I was like nudging my missus, going, "Oh, here we go!" And of course, obviously, we know what happened. So that was my kiss of death, wasn't it? But what did the gaffers say at half time to you that changed it round a bit? Because I thought I thought we dealt with them better in the second half. They had, 10 corners in the first half, and they only had a couple in the second. So we were obviously defending a lot better. And then, as has been alluded to, we had that 10, 15-minute spell where we had a right go. We got some real good crosses in. Phillips had like a flick header that he didn't get quite as much on, and a couple of half chances that didn't quite fall for people. And then, like I say, Gibbo went on that mazy dribble and shot straight at the keeper. So what did Gaffer say at half time?
Just really nothing too major, really. Just that we have to get up against them a bit more. We've got to kind of get ourselves in more duels, not sit off as much, and kind of soak up their pressure, really, because they were playing quite a lot of balls into Ironside and into the front three, and the balls were obviously sticking, and that gave them like a little leg up where their midfielders can kind of gamble off second balls and their defence can get higher up. So he wanted us obviously to be more aggressive as a team, press a bit higher up the pitch, and kind of give them less time to pick better balls into the front three, really. And I think in the second half, probably bar the start of the second half, I think we done well with that.
Yeah, it was very noticeable that they did play a really, really high line all game. They were defending even free kicks that were just taken just inside our half. They were standing 10 yards outside the D, as if we'll knock it in that space and we're quite happy. Yeah. And so we did the same. And like the first 20 minutes of the second half, it was very, very condensed and very scrappy. But then we tended to get the upper hand. And I think some of I could see what Derek was trying to do with the changes. He was trying to give us more width, Joel, but the people were very critical on the night, saying the subs didn't work. But that's a chance you take, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the subs. I didn't really. I'm not really sure if 3-5-2 was the shape to go against Cambridge because of the way they play with a couple of wide men, and then you get your fullbacks up. It means they can double up on our wing backs and then getting behind, and then that causes a bit of a problem, stretches our midfield as well, because there's essentially you've got three midfielders trying to cover the width of the pitch. So, you know, I was glad to see that change, to be honest. Whether it really, I'm trying to think about how much it really affected the game. I mean, I don't think the goal was really down to the changes. I don't think it was down to the formation really or anything. I think, like we said, you know, we were starting to get the upper hand. I think Nahua had gone on a couple of nice little amazing dribbles. He'd given us a little bit more of that ball carrying. Obviously, Conley stretching the play, running in behind. You know, I think we were starting to get the upper hand a little bit. I wouldn't say the changes really were ones that played to our detriment. Really, I thought we were kind of getting there really, but yeah, in the end, you know, they've managed to get the goal in the end, and yeah, it's disappointing, but yeah, probably wouldn't put that down to the changes.
So looking at the the overall Cambridge hoodoo that we've got, and the last two seasons we've managed to go there and lose 2-1 to a dodgy penalty. I'm hoping the football god's smiling on us when we go to the Abbey Stadium this time, and maybe we can get the dodgy penalty. But just before we came on air, you had rather a revealing stat about Donald Love, Joel.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, he's been playing wing back a bit, obviously, and yeah, I think he's one that's come under fire a bit on social media, and I think at times quite harshly, because if you look, I think people are, you know, it's easy to kind of get very one-sided over a player and dig yourself into a trench, but ultimately, I was looking at a few of the numbers, and he's created the most chances out of our team. He's created the most big chances, got the most assists. So yeah, I guess when we're kind of looking at the way we sometimes react to games, and yeah, it's worth trying to be balanced and looking at both sides of things, and you know, rather than just kind of seeing one thing and just going to absolute town on it.
I'm smiling because I'm being devil's advocate here now straight away, because I'm thinking that's a great stat. But can we split that stat even further into he's created more chances missed or more chances scored?
Well, I mean,
I don't expect you to know that.
He's got the most assists, so yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, it's good enough for me. Right, we'll move on. And it's time to chat with our guest, Ryan. Ryan, you were, am I right in thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, give me the story. We nabbed you off Bolton Wanderers, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
So we nabbed you off Bolton Wanderers. What was the situation then? Did they want you to stay? Because that's the version that I heard at the time, and I sort of recall it now and think, well, tell us how it happened.
Yeah, so the season finished. I got offered a new contract at Bolton, and I didn't really at that moment in time think it was the right thing for me. I hadn't played for the last 2 months of the season because I got injured in the game, and the team obviously went on a winning run, so I couldn't get back in. So I just kind of wanted to go into the summer and kind of see what my options were. And just basically, I wanted to go somewhere, a fresh start, and kind of put my head down and get back to playing games and stuff like that. So I went home in the summer, and that's when I got in contact with Robbo. He rang me obviously and wanted to get me on board.
And it was, as far as you were concerned, Robbo sold the club and said, right, it's a done deal sort of thing. You were quite happy to sign because he was obviously, you did start most of the games, didn't you?
Yeah, no, spoke to Robbo obviously, and it was an exciting project. Obviously, Robbo was coming in at a similar time to me. It was new for him as well, but he sold the club to me well. Obviously, a family kind of like club, close knit, and I just felt like that. Sometimes you can kind of just get a good feeling when something sits well for you, and you have to go with your gut. And I went with my gut, and we're still here now.
And I'm going to say, because, well, there has been, shall we say, we've had some rocky patches, both, personally and both team-wise, because obviously we're in a situation where we've played a few games, and it sort of seemed to be around sort of Christmas time that you fell out of favour. He got other people in, obviously Jacob Beddoe, etc. Trevor Carson obviously came in goals, and then you ended up going on loan to Scunthorpe, and obviously well documented what happened at Scunthorpe. How was that? That must have been terrifically hard.
Yeah, at the time, when I come around, obviously I wasn't playing too many games, and I'm not the sort of person that likes to kind of like sit on my laurels. And obviously I was in the stand for a couple of games before December, and I just felt like I needed to kind of maybe just basically to push the reset button. I need to get myself back playing games, because when I can get a run of games, I feel like that's when I play my best football. Right. Before that, I was kind of in and out, and I felt like I couldn't really get a rhythm to myself. Obviously, I was making mistakes. I wasn't playing my best football, and that goes with it. And then January come around, and I felt like that was best for me. And obviously, the club at the time that I go out on loan to get some games, and then see where that left me in the summer. So I had a conversation with Robbo and the staff, and we were on a mutual agreement that a loan was the best option for me. I knew the manager at Scunthorpe, Keith Hill, before. I've worked under him twice before that, so I kind of knew what he was about. He knew me, and I felt like it was a good fit at the time. They weren't in the best position, but I felt like it was going to be a difficult time, but a time where I can kind of get myself going. They're going to have to defend a lot. Games are going to be scrappy, and I felt like that it was going to help me more to kind of get back into the mix of things, and that's how it came about.
And it appears, well, with hindsight, although for a team-wise, it might not seem like a good move, but obviously when you came back to us in the summer, obviously we by then Robbo's disappeared to St Mirren, and we've got DA back. So you've got a kind of pair of fresh eyes to impress when you come back to pre-season training. Did that help?
Yeah, it helps. I think when I was going on loan, the idea was to still come back in the summer and basically just get back going. Obviously, Robbo left, and that obviously changes things. It kind of sometimes can put a little bit of doubt in your head. A new manager's going to come in. You have the him-ha where you're thinking, am I going to be in his plans? Am I not? So I just looked at it basically after the season. I had some time at home, and I just said, look, I'm just going to put myself in the best that I can in pre-season, do my work in the off-season, and go back in pre-season. It's a free hit. and see where that takes me. Really, I just said, like, I'll put my head down, I'll give my all, I'll train hard, I'll make sure I'm in the best state I can be, and I'll see where that takes me. If it doesn't work out, I can't say that I didn't try.
And it's I don't mind saying, and I'll tell you this, and my mates who listen to this will be saying, "Oh, he's telling all our secrets." But there's been situations this season already where we've turned round and you've made, as I said, an intercepting tackle because you've read it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my mates have turned around and gone, "Who's that bloke who looks like Delaney?" Because they're like, wow, because it appears that they're sort of like getting the battle back in you at Scunthorpe has done you a world of good, because you've come back, and I'm not being funny, you do look like a different player, and you've kept your place because you deserve to. That's from the barter card anyway,
Yeah, no, it was a difficult 3 months. I won't lie about that. It was a difficult 3 months, frustrating 3 months at times, but I think it stood to me. There was difficult times, but sometimes you just have to override them, and I feel like it was as much of a positive as it was a negative at the time, and I feel good for it now. It put me in a good position, and I just want to kind of keep going.
Yeah, we want you to keep going as well. Joel, is all yours.
Yeah, I just thought initially I'd kind of ask about playing in the League of Ireland, because it's obviously something you've had a lot of experience with. But I think a lot of people have quite aggressive conversations about the comparisons between English football and Scottish football, but nobody really talks about the comparisons with English and Irish football. Maybe because there's a little bit less movement, maybe it's because there's some large body of water in between. But yeah, what would you say the kind of main differences are?
The main difference is in the Premier Division, which is the top division in Ireland, all the teams aren't full time. So there's probably about 8 teams that are full time out of, give or take, I think it's maybe 14, 15 teams. So there's about 8 to 10 teams that are full time, and then there's 4 or 5 teams, give or take, that are part time, that the players obviously have to work as well on the side. So sometimes there can be like a gulf in standard between the teams that are at the top of the table and the bottom of the table. But in terms of the standard, I think the standard is quite high. I think over probably the last 6-7 years, I think a lot of players have made a step from the League of Ireland over to League One and the Championship, I think, in England. So it's a good stepping stone, I think, for younger players, obviously, like myself, that you can get games under your belt. And I think a lot of English teams now are kind of targeting that market. At the time, there was a lot more shorter contracts, so it kind of gave teams like a free hit kind of on players, that players were signing 1-year contracts, and the season starts in February and finishes in November. So it gives English teams kind of 6 weeks to kind of get into players' head, basically, to kind of get them to jump across the pond in January before signing a new contract, and kind of get them on smaller fees, or sometimes get them on a free contract. So I think it's a good market, obviously, and there's a lot of players that have kind of progressed from the League of Ireland over to the Football League and even the Championship.
So speaking about that, those kind of short-term contracts, obviously you've moved to Burton after a bit of a spell at Wexford. Was that similar to what happened with you then? Was that kind of, they were kind of watching you for a few weeks in January or whatever, and then kind of come over and tempted you over to England?
Mine was actually in the middle of the season, so we just had like a mid-season break, which it is, and my move to Burton kind of come about really quickly. Really, I just got a phone call from my agent. I was in university at the time, so I just finished my year in university, and I just got a text from my agent saying that you're going over to Burton on Thursday, and obviously you've got 2 days of training and there's a game on Saturday. So I just kind of thought of it as a free hit, really. My club obviously were really easy going in terms of they wanted me to kind of give myself the best opportunity to get moved to England. So I came across for the 2 days and played the pre-season friendly on Saturday, and that it just went as quick as that, really. I signed that Monday, and the rest obviously is kind of history now, really.
That, that sounds terrifically laid back and Irish, all that, doesn't it? Like, oh, my club were all right, and I thought, well, yeah, my agent said, and I was like bloody hell, fire! That's
what I do.
So easy.
I just kind of seen it as myself. I seen it was a free hit. I get to see myself in a different environment with players that were full time, because at the time I wasn't actually full time. We were part time, so we trained Monday, Wednesday, and we'd game on a Friday. So I just kind of went into it open minded. Went over. If it went well, great. If it didn't, it's a learning curve. Obviously, I've still got half a season to maybe impress someone else or improve myself in that next 6 months. So that's kind of how I looked at it, and it obviously went a lot quicker than I was expecting.
I've got to ask, what were you studying at university?
Sports and exercise and business.
How did you balance first year activities along with being a professional, a semi-pro sportsman?
Yeah, to be fair, I missed out on probably quite a few of the first year fun, you might say. But looking back now, I wouldn't change it. I've obviously got my move over to England, and as a professional footballer, so I wouldn't change it for a minute. Missing any night out or
you can do Freshers Week when you're 40, when you retire.
Exactly. You're students.
Yeah, get it all in when you're a bit older. So just moving on to playing in England. So I guess I was going to ask initially, was it quite daunting moving to England at quite a young age? But you've already gone to university at that point, and when you speak about it now, it sounds like you were quite relaxed about it, really.
Yeah, I think I'm quite a relaxed person. Obviously, my family are a bit different to me. I kind of take things in my stride and kind of go with the flow. My family obviously wouldn't be agreeing with me on that part of things. I can add obviously extra stress to them, which doesn't bode well. But yeah, I think I just kind of go into things kind of full-hearted, really, and I just like to make things work, which however difficult it may be. I just kind of want to put my head into it, and it'll all work out in the end, really, if you put your head into it. Exactly.
Well, I think this summer, as we've kind of spoken about, is kind of testament to that, and with kind of putting your head down, it does turn out, doesn't it? So with kind of bearing down specifics, when you kind of like you're looking ahead to this summer, when you kind of say you were working on things, was that kind of like more time in the gym? Was it more time with a coach or a trainer or something?
So it was a mix of both, to be honest. So I have a couple of friends that like work in the gym back home, so I was kind of going in, doing sessions there most days, and then I do like normally gym work in the morning, and then like some afternoons I'll go to the running track, or I'll go to the football pitch to do a little bit of extras myself. And I'm quite a morning person, so I like to get things done quite early in the day, so I can have like the later on in the day to kind of relax more and see my family and friends, really, because throughout the year I don't really get to see them as much as probably I'd like. But my summertime I like to have a good mix of obviously doing my off-season work and making the most of it with my friends and family.
So I guess from that perspective, it's not only devoting a bit of time to working on stuff in the gym, etc., but it's also, I guess, a bit of a mental refresh, a bit of a mental reset, seeing friends and family.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's the same with friends and family. They feel a lot more relaxed, and things obviously are a lot easier. You get to see you're probably a little bit happier as well, without really thinking about it in the back of your head. You probably don't really notice it as much as it probably does work. And then I think it's sometimes you can just switch off a little bit more and kind of just mess around with your mates and do things what you used to do when you were younger, and it's not probably as serious as it is for the 9 months obviously leading up to the summer. So I think it's a good reset for me personally anyway, to go home and see my friends and family.
So kind of on kind of the mental side of things, I guess, more when obviously Derek over the summer transfer listed a lot of players, and he has since kind of come out and said, a lot of it is to try and just free up areas of the budget so he has more flexibility. So when you kind of get the news like that about being transfer listed, how hard is it to kind of frame it in the mindset of it just being business and just try not to take it like too personally?
Yeah, no, it is tough. I think hearing it first is probably a bit heart sinking, really. It's not a nice feeling. If we're going to be honest, it's the same as any way of life. It's not a nice feeling, kind of feeling like that you're probably maybe not wanted as much as someone else. But I felt like I got over that quite quick, really, and I just looked at it as a free hit, really, because obviously I hadn't been there for the couple of months that Derek had come in, so I just wanted to go in and kind of see how it took to it. And luckily enough, it's worked out well so far. So I'm happy enough how it's going.
So I guess almost in a funny way that the fact that you were there, you were away and playing for Scunthorpe kind of meant that it was you could kind of maybe distance yourself from the decision a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So I found out that obviously I was transfer listed probably just before the end of the season, so I kind of had some time to kind of take it all in, really, and have a long think about it, really. And obviously I've got family members that will be totally honest with me, so I had to take some home truths which are fully deserved, and I just knew I had to come back and show the best part of me. And I think with hard work, it kind of all kind of bottoms out in the end, really.
So it sounds like the decision to stay and try and prove yourself to Derek instead of looking for another club, it sounds like that you came to that decision quite quickly then.
Yeah, no, I did. I felt like either way, football it's a weird business. If we all look at it, it's a game of opinions, and people's opinions can change. It's the same as any way of life. You can't take things too personal, because things can it can be like you can be one injury away from getting back into the team, or you could be one injury away from playing and being totally out of the picture. So you've got to kind of make the best of a bad situation, and you got to take it all as it comes to you, really, and kind of enjoy the moment more than looking too far into the future, looking too far into the past. You've got to enjoy the moment and just get on with it, really, in simpler terms.
So moving on to some kind of more specific kind of footballing questions, the slightly devious one to ask is, what's Derek like to work under compared to Stephen Robinson?
They're different managers in different ways, but I think both have got similar ideas that they want you to work hard as a team and kind of get amongst people, not soak up loads of pressure. I think that both managers obviously want to get at the opposition, and then obviously they've got different temperaments, which everyone does, really. Everyone's got different temperaments, so that's how they are.
Yeah, I know. Actually,
good diplomatic answer. Good diplomatic answer.
Steve, actually,
I never thought of going into politics.
Hey, I think so.
It is quite a contrast, actually. Just from watching from the stands, Stephen Robinson, he was walking on hot coals in the technical area, and Derek is kind of arms folded, kind of deep in thought, isn't he?
He is.
Just finally, obviously there's been quite a lot of switching around in different systems between 3 at the back and 4 at the back. So for you as a defender, what are the kind of main differences for you in your kind of job roles in those 2 different systems?
I think in the 2 different systems, I think in a back 3 you've got a little bit more freedom to go higher up the pitch, and on a defensive kind of side of the game, you've got a bit more responsibility to kind of go wide and sometimes have to deal with a winger, or one of the back 3s is going to be free, so one of us is going to have to step into a midfielder if the moment arises, which in a back 4 it's a bit more rugged, really. That there's not really too much thought about the attacking side of the game, but in the back three, we have a lot more freedom to kind of push up the pitch and kind of go into areas where in a back four you probably don't really ever get into. Because you're going to have a left back, and the left back is kind of going to be more in that area as it comes. So offensively, you've got a lot more freedom, I think, in a back three, but you've got to kind of defend a little bit higher up the pitch. I think you've got to get tighter to a winger, probably more in their half than you would probably in a back four.
So that's quite interesting you put it like, because I think I look around on Twitter and whatever, and I think there's a lot of perception that being in a back three kind of protects some centre backs in some ways. But would you kind of almost say at times it kind of is more difficult and more exposing because you are having to kind of be a bit more aggressive or move into wide areas where you're getting attacked by a winger who's really tricky?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's both obviously a lot different. I think it's more rigid, obviously, in the back four, but in a back three, I think it depends obviously on the style as well. I think that we kind of go up amongst the team, so we're kind of in probably more 1v1 duels, I think, high up the pitch. Then obviously other back threes where you're probably sitting more in a back five than you are in a back three. So you get a bit more protection really. But I think with the way that obviously our wing backs play, that they play kind of offensively to get crosses into the final third, and obviously expected to be in round the back post, it kind of gives us more of a responsibility to push up against kind of like higher midfielders or inside forwards / wingers.
That's all really interesting. Thanks, Ryan. Back over to you, Freez.
I've got just one more thing I want to mention, and obviously this is a general question, Ryan. Like I say, we've not had the best start to the season, but we've been in, other than probably the Sheffield Wednesday game where I thought they were quality right across us. Even against MK Dons, we had the chances and created and etc. etc. How's it going in the squad? Is everybody confident that we're going to pull ourselves out of the mire, or are you all sort of thinking, ooh, you know, or do you not talk about it?
No, I think we're confident. I think going into the season, we obviously had a big change in the group, so we had a lot of new players. I think we realised pretty quickly in pre-season that we've got some quality players and a lot of good technical players. So I think we realised that we've got the players in the squad to put it up against the majority of teams in this league. And I think it's probably a little bit harder from the outside to see in, because it all depends on how a game goes on the Saturday or on a Tuesday. But I think for us as a group, we see massive improvements from where we were at the start of the season to where we are now. And I feel like we're all striving in the one direction to kind of get into a rhythm of winning games. I think that we've played well in games, but results haven't gone our way. So it can take away from it, which that's what the game is. The game is getting results on Saturday. But I think sometimes it can be taken away to the improvements we've had since the start of the season. Like everyone pushes themselves from in the whole squad on a day-to-day basis. Training's intense. You wouldn't know that we're mates when we're mates, that we're off the pitch live, because in training, no one, like, everyone puts that to the side, and we're all kind of like, I'd say, like, aggressive in training. It's not like hairy-fairy and stuff like that. So I think
you're kicking lumps out of each other.
Basically, yeah, and nobody takes it personal either, because that's just the way it has to be for us to improve as a squad. And I think that we've seen improvements, so we want to push that out onto a Saturday so that the people on the outside can see that, because we know how much work that we're putting into it, and sometimes us obviously not getting the results can kind of take away from that. So we want to get build momentum into getting results and getting wins and putting points on the board, so people can kind of appreciate what's kind of going on in the background.
I think it's a good point to make and to move on, James, is the fact that you know, the how you do on a Saturday, particularly in the state of the country as it is, it does affect your mood on a Saturday evening, and it can ruin or make a weekend, can't it? And I know there was quite a lot of criticism for the defeat on Saturday, and a lot of people saying, "No, it was a poor game and Cambridge were rubbish," which I don't think were true. I think it was quite a good game, but I think we come back to something that you've always mentioned, and it's always fine margins, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And you know, you can't get away from the fact that football is a results game. All sports are about results, not about performances. I do think it's really important, though, that you look at performances as well as results. And yeah, you can see there's nobody in the team flapping. There's nobody in the team giving up. Derek is not flapping. He's calm. I think, you know, Derek does not sort of show a huge amount of emotion. That's just the type of person he is. He didn't show any very much emotion at Wembley until the final whistle a couple of years ago, and that's just Derek. And after you've had people like, you know, Jim Bentley and Rob O leaping around and sort of, you know, fist bumping and everything else, it can come across like, you know, people aren't bothered. That's just absolutely not the case. You know, everybody in the squad, everybody in the club, Derek massively care. And yeah, it is difficult at the moment. You know, people are staring down the barrel of silly mortgage increases and huge energy bills and everything going up in price. And it's you know, you could very easily, if you watch too much of the news, get yourself into a really bloody miserable position. And a win on a Saturday makes a huge difference to how we all feel, because we're football fans and we love football. But I think it is important to remember that you know, it's still relatively early in the season. We've had an awful lot of change in the squad. And you know, it's a case of it's a bit of Kipling, isn't it? You know, if you can keep your head and all about you losing theirs and blaming it on you, and we've got to maintain calm heads. And I think, you know, the example that Ryan's just been talking about, the way that he's tackled adversity, the way he's tackled, you know, being challenged and coming in for a lot of stick, is just to work hard and prove your worth, and that's what we got to do. So yeah, to your point, Freez, it is difficult at the moment. A win on a Saturday makes a big difference to how we all feel. It would have made a big difference to how I felt at sort of 5:30 on Saturday as well. But it's still early, very early days, and the team and Derek aren't panicking, in either way.
And that's good to hear. So moving swiftly on, we'll come to you now, James. The usual sort of boardroom rumours. I've just literally, I don't want to shock you with this one, but I've just seen that the club are advertising for a physiotherapist. Farney's leaving, is that right?
Yeah, I only found that out about an hour ago, so I've got no inside track on that. I just got a message to say
literally, I just got a text
this is happening. Funnily enough, Farney's mum and dad were at the game on Saturday in the boardroom, and I probably should have put two and two together, but I just didn't have a conversation with anybody. So yeah, that's obviously you know, a big shame. He's been with the club a very, very long time, and I think it's fair to say that from a sort of a general establishment perspective, he's a bit of a legend. But you know, we will obviously wish him all the best. He's an absolutely lovely man, and you know, whatever he's going on to do, I hope he does brilliantly. But yeah, I've got no inside track on that. I literally found about an hour ago and didn't have a chance to say what's happened and why.
So I'm second guessing him here. He's either going to be a horse race trainer or a wine expert when he leaves. And Ryan, you get that one, don't you? So I know we spoke last time you were on, James. We were talking about the importance of getting the official news through that Morecambe FC were getting Morecambe FC ladies officially. And under that umbrella, they had a humdinger of a game at the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it was. I think probably people would have wished for the game to stop at half time. We went into the lead. Apparently, it was a cracking first goal, 2-2 at half time, and you're thinking, well, this is steady. And then our Cumbrian friends stuck a whole load in. I'm told that several were iffy from an offside perspective, but I wasn't able to be there, so I can't claim any inside track on that. But it's really good to see, and what's really good to see as well is the level of reporting going up, and everything just feeling much more integrated, and everything looking and sounding like it's Morecambe. I think that's really, really important, and I know that everybody in that setup is going to work massively hard to get the MFC women's side of things up to the highest possible level. And the lovely thing is there is still an opportunity in the women's game, if you really get everything to sort of click to really drive things to a higher level. It's still not as saturated at the upper end as the men's game. So yeah, good to see, and I've got no doubt at all there'll be some victories coming down the line.
Just as an aside, I still play. I do play decrepit walking football, which is for over 50s, and we've been playing for about sort of a couple of years, where Barry Roach does his goalkeeping training, and we play on the same nights, Mondays and Wednesdays. But the Janet Preston and her staff started after the success of the women's team in the Euros. They started a girls' session, which runs on the pitch concurrent to us on a Monday. And last night, 40 girls of ages from 7, 8, 9 up to about 13 or 14. 40 of them screaming. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And us being old lags, every time our ball went out of play, there was a couple of them could trap it better than us already.
My 6-year-old, actually just turned 7. That's a terrible thing. I hope my wife's not listening. My 7-year-old, Emily Jane, she was playing football last year, and she wanted to give it up because she was only playing with the boys. And just like she was, I don't want to play with the boys, Daddy. I want to play with girls. And she's literally just taking it up again. And in no small part, it was due to watching literally 50, 60, 70,000 people watching the women's game. That tournament, and so yeah, I've seen the direct impact of the much higher profile of the women's game in my own house, and she's begging me for a new pair of football boots. So yeah, it is fantastic, and she's already got a better first touch than her dad.
Well, good luck to her. But that's another reason I wanted to mention it in the podcast, because I think we're all Morecambe Football Club, and I think it bears mentioning. I wasn't going to mention the final score, but I was just going to say they ran out of steam. But that's just it's to be expected, isn't it? Really. So
yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, I've got to ask you. Obviously, the other news that came out yesterday was Worcester Warriors going into administration. When obviously Jason and Colin are foot in both camps. It was rather concerning what was coming out on the news. Obviously, it made the national news. But obviously, fingers crossed, you can give us an update and say it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, that's true. It's the same update that we gave a couple of weeks ago. Jason and Colin have now stepped off the board. As I said when I was on a couple of weeks ago, they would like to find a buyer for the club. We're financially in a better position than we've been in, certainly in my time in involvement with the club. And the fact that we were able to wait until the end of the transfer window before making any announcements, and the fact that there has been no impact on the club is hopefully testament to that. I do really feel for the people associated with Worcester Warriors. Obviously, it's heartbreaking to see that happen to any organisation, and I can only offer sympathy and empathy to that position. But it doesn't affect Morecambe Football Club. We've got our finances to a place where we're very close to being sustainable, and we're going to keep working on that for as long as possible. And we haven't got a buyer yet, but there are people interested. And so the moment things develop on that side, it'll be publicly announced. To anybody who feels like we're not sharing information, it's because there isn't any information to share. If there were a meaningful update, we'd provide it, but there hasn't been a meaningful update. There are people interested, and the message in terms of the connection between Worcester and Morecambe is still the same.
And it's a valid point you make, the fact that you've got to have sympathy with their situation, because the simple fact is 5 years ago, we were probably not far off that from a club's point of view ourselves, with doubts about ownership, people coming in saying they're going to buy it, haven't got any money and want to do underwater casinos, and others from Brazil who shall remain nameless coming in with tuppence to the name saying I'm going to buy it. And I remember the days we were going through that. If we'd have been doing a podcast at the time, I'd have probably been slitting my wrists.
Yeah, it's probably not a coincidence that there wasn't a podcast at the time. In fact, we've got 2 podcasts now, and Joel's doing multiple guest appearances. So there's various. And
you don't pretend.
Maybe once or twice, yeah. But it's probably not a coincidence. But yeah, all of that, and again, that's why I've said it a few times. It's my own personal opinion, but it's why it's so important that as many clubs in football as possible pursue a sustainable model, and spend what they can spend. And it's why the game needs a bit of a rejig, so that's encouraged and the opposite is not encouraged. Because if you force people to gamble, then some people will lose more than they can afford to lose, and that's kind of what parts of the game force clubs to do at the moment.
And I think it's probably prevalent in every single division. We've seen that model been adopted by quite a few clubs, and it's ended in tears, which is very sad for them. And I'm obviously, with the wrong owner, Berry, etc., have found that the gamble, it paid off for a season, but then it didn't the season after. And I think you're one of these people who's, I know I follow the gentleman who's leading me nicely into Accrington on Saturday. I follow him on Twitter, and I think he speaks a lot of sense, and I know you think the same thing.
Yeah, I very much do. I like Andy. I'm gutted I can't get back up this weekend. I was going to catch a train, but that's not going to happen. And I drove up and back by myself last week. But no, I do. I think he speaks a huge amount of sense, and he sometimes does it a bit individually and without too much support from others. I think he's made quite a lot of noise on a number of good issues recently. The one that I do think anybody who's interested should take a look at is the Crouch report and the review of football and the potential for the imposition of an independent regulator. I know that the current government is doing all it can to strip back on regulation. I won't offer my own strong opinions on that, but for anybody who loves the game of football, the more pressure that can be put on the government to not get rid of the findings of the Crouch report and to support Tracy Crouch in what she suggested, and to support the imposition of a regulator that can make the game more sustainable for the whole pyramid, the better. People should be making more noise about it, and it's really important. If that gets scrapped and swept under the carpet, then it'll be a massive lost opportunity, and more clubs will go under over the course of the next 5, 10, 15 years. It's not sustainable at the moment. It's a casino.
And I know what you're referring to, and obviously from our point of view, yes, we've got some big clubs in this division, and they are, to a certain extent, they're gambling on getting out and getting in the Championship. But just about every club in the Championship is wanting to take that gamble to enable them to get into the promised land of the Premier League, and therein lies the problem, isn't it? In the fact that you all want to strive to get to the highest level, but somebody like Bournemouth surviving in the Premier League is simply a miracle on crowds of 11,000. And if they implement the rules so that they are, shall we say, it's a more level playing field, and there's an equivalent share goes around, I think it's a good thing, and I agree with you. But will it happen?
There are people who represent the Premier League doing everything they can to stonewall and to slow down and to confuse. The voices at the bottom of the pyramid are quieter than the voices at the top. They don't have as much say. They don't have as many Twitter followers. There's not the same sort of just general groundswelling of support. And it's challenging, but football fans want their club to be successful, and even the most vehement socialist who believes in doing things for the collective good may not be that socialist on a Saturday afternoon when it comes to their team beating another team, and they might not hold those same views. But I do think it's important that the game is made more sustainable. Some of the changes that could be made are really quite simple, and the argument that the Premier League needs to protect itself so that it can compete with the rest of Europe is just nonsense. The Premier League spent more in the last transfer window than every other top league in Europe combined. Yeah. There are clubs in the Championship plucking players out of half of the top leagues in Europe. So it's not a case of the Premier League needing to compete. The pyramid just needs a little bit more to be shared around, and then the whole thing is more sustainable. And we don't have Berries and Boltons a few years ago, and Macclesfields and Derbies. You've got a game which can be enjoyed by every town up and down the country. So yeah, it's really important. I'd really urge people who listen to this to go and read the Crouch report, read the conclusions of it, and send letters and get in contact with our MP and anybody else who they can get in contact with, because that Crouch report shouldn't be swept under the carpet.
And just as a reminder that when the Premier League season kicked off in 1992, Oldham Athletic were in it, and look where they are now. So it's not the gilded cage that people think it is. But anyway, moving on. Final thing to chat about. A positive. We're 25 mile away in East Lancs. You can't get there by train, as you and Joel have already alluded to. I'm going to drive. I'm sure Ryan's getting the coach, so he's all right. But Joel, you're getting the bus. Crown Ground, the Crown. Is it called the Crown Hotel or the Crown? I can't remember what it's called now.
Crown
Anyway,
Royal or
I can't remember. Anyway, the pub.
Rochdale? I can't remember.
The pub, yeah, the pub. The pub, 1 o'clock Saturday. Be there because it's a great atmosphere in there. They do good food, they do good beer. It's always a great away day. And as I've said in the past, Accrington are very. I do like Andy, their chairman. I think we're very, very similar to them in so many ways, apart from the fact that we're both little non-league clubs from Lancashire who are punching fantastically in League One. But it's going to be a tough game. They've got plenty of place to pick from. Squad of 41, Joel. If they've got injuries, they can probably ride it out. So it's going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, I think over the past couple of 2 or 3 seasons, it's become very clear what you're going to get from Accrington. It is getting up to the pitch to the big lads, really, and then get the second ball.
They had 10 big lads last year. The only one who wasn't was John O'Sullivan.
I know, exactly. And well, that's the thing. Then they have people like John. Obviously, he's gone back over to Ireland now, but they have people like John O'Sullivan, obviously with Conville this season, and Sean Wally, who can cross the ball quite well to the big lads in the middle. So, they've got a good game plan. It's clear. I know, obviously, probably, you'll get people who say, "Oh, it's not very attractive," whatever, but it's very effective. They're good at doing it. So if that helps them survive on a smaller budget, then yeah, you can totally see why they do it. But yeah, I just, it's going to be, apparently it might rain a bit, which is going to be fun on the terrace.
I'll buy seats in that stand then.
I know, yeah. I don't know why I booked a standing ticket, but I have. So my mistake.
I stand at home and you sit because you're posh. And the away, when you've got a chance to sit somewhere posh, you stand.
I want the novelty. It's Accrington away.
Oh,
it's a badge of honour. It's in this league going behind that home end with no roof. But yeah, I think please come on, please Ryan. It's going to be raining. We're going to be standing behind the goal. Come on, I've never seen us beat Accrington before. I mean, we have beaten them, but I was away, so it would be hugely appreciated.
Oh, I hope the bus breaks down.
Question for Ryan. Ryan, how frustrated are you? You've been that close to scoring about 5 times this season. This would be the weekend to fix that. Honestly, this is the weekend to stick those 2 headers in.
Yeah. No pressure.
I keep getting told that by everybody.
Oh well done, James, for telling what everybody tells.
No. Hey, listen, I say it in a good way. I think the fact you're getting close is fantastic, because getting close it turns into goals, doesn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it comes this Saturday, and it can be the start of a few more maybe. But yeah, so we'll wait and see.
Well, all I'll say to you is no pressure, but Faz 2, Ryan 0.
Game on.
Exactly. So hat-trick Saturday against Accrington. Yeah. What are the chances? Come on.
We'll wait and see.
So what are your thoughts on going on Saturday? Have you done anything special? Are you expecting an aerial bombardment? Because we are.
Yeah, we're ready for whatever comes to us, and it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a proper local derby sort of game, and we've got to be at it, and they'll obviously be thinking the exact same in their dressing room. So it's going to be whoever wants it more, and whoever can kind of push on from when they're on top of the game. So we've got to be right at it. It's going to be a tough game. There's no doubt in that. And more than likely over the last couple of years, it's shown that it's a ground where it's a lot of physical bombardment and a lot of crosses coming into the box. So we've got to do our best to defend well, and our players higher up the pitch will get us the goals that are needed. But it's going to be a physical game and a tough game. And obviously, Joel said about the weather, it's going to be an exciting battle, you could say, on Saturday.
Well, the only thing that I can guarantee is we've always taken really good numbers there. I think there was about 1,400 there last season. So that was almost like a home game, and that's going to help, isn't it? Yeah,
of course. I think the bigger attendances, obviously, it can really push you on. And I think that our fans are so loud as well, and I think it can give us a little kick and push us on, obviously, to get the win, and kind of, from what I said before, kind of start that momentum to get a result and kind of really push ourselves on. So Saturday is going to have to be the start of that.
Well, I hope so, because after that, we've only got Ipswich at home, and they're rubbish, aren't they? So what can possibly go wrong? So a good place to wrap up. Have you got anything from the trust there, Joel?
Not too much. Obviously, we're recording a bit early this week, so it's only been a few days since the last one. But yeah, we are meeting. I think by the time most people will be listening to this this evening, which is Wednesday evening. Sorry, I've completely I've butchered that, haven't I? We're going to be meeting on Wednesday. We're going to be meeting on Wednesday evening.
We are recording this on Tuesday because I'm going to a gig on Thursday evening with somebody you've never heard of. But anyway,
but yeah, so we're having a meeting with the club on Wednesday. We've got a lot of people who are new to the board, so that'll be good to kind of get everybody, kind of see who each other are and kind of just look at what we can do over the next year, really, and the next season. So yeah, hopefully it should be sort of a few things discussed and some start of a few different projects going.
And have you got
we'll be seeing a lot of each other this week, won't we, Joel?
I know, yeah.
I was going to say, have you got a boardroom representative at that meeting?
You've got two. You've got Ben and me tomorrow, and you as well. I think it'd be a full house. It'd be good actually, because with all the new trustees that you've got on board, it'll be really good to get together. I had a chat with 2 or 3 of them in JB's on Saturday until quite late. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be a constructive meeting.
So that's it. This has been episode 9 of the ShrimpNet, the podcast of the Shrimps Trust for Morecambe FC. Thanks to my guests, James, I'm on the media every week, Wakefield, full kit man tonight. What's it, 5-a-side?
It's 6-7 aside tonight.
6-7. What, on a 5-a-side pitch? Because you're getting on.
No, we've got a full pitch, so we tend to just sort of bring it down to about 2/3. But I will be there in full away kit.
Away kit, nice, good choice. Well, thanks for joining us, James, and I hope you've enjoyed that, Ryan. Please tell the rest of the squad that it's a doddle on here. They don't ask anything nasty apart from that Joel who does really interesting questions.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'll pass on the good word.
Yeah, do. And Joel, brilliant as always. Thank you for your patience with me talking rot half of the time. So this has been episode 9. Hope you've enjoyed it. We've done it a bit earlier, so it might be out a bit earlier, but then again, Joel might change his mind and think it might be just Friday as normal. So there you go. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the terraces, or you might see me in the stand because I'm going posh at Accrington. See you then.